Imagine being woken by a bugle at 4 in the morning every single day for 49 years. That was the life of Basil II, Byzantine Emperor. He ruled the Eastern Roman Empire for almost 50 years. He never married, and he slept on a wooden camp bed, even in the heart of his own palace. And in the year 1014, he did something so cruel that his name still makes people shudder. He was born in the year 958, the grandson of the great Emperor Constantine VII. His father, Romanos II, ruled only briefly before being poisoned at the banquet table. By the age of 2, Basil had been crowned co-emperor. But the real power in Constantinople belonged to eunuchs and generals, and the chief eunuch, a man named Joseph Bringas, treated him like a child. For nearly 2 decades, Basil watched from the sidelines as other men ruled in his name. He learned to ride before he could write a clean sentence, and he memorized the classical historians by heart. He spent long hours in the palace chapel, learning the rituals of the church. He saw 3 emperors come and go before he finally wore the crown alone. In the year 976, at the age of 18, the regency ended and Basil became the senior emperor of Rome. Almost immediately, 2 of his own generals revolted. Bardas Skleros, lord of the eastern frontier, raised a massive army. Bardas Phocas the Younger, lord of the west, did the same. For 3 long years, Basil's empire was at war with itself. At the Battle of Abydos, Basil personally led the vanguard. He rode ahead of his own bodyguard, sword in hand. His armor was dented, his horse was killed under him, and he came back alive. Skleros's revolt collapsed by the year 979, and his men drifted home. Phocas continued his revolt for a while longer, but he died of a stroke before Basil ever had to defeat him in person. By 21, Basil was the unquestioned master of the Eastern Roman Empire. He had learned a lesson he would never forget, and he would never trust his generals with too much power again. He had learned another lesson, and he would never trust comfort, either. In the silken bedchambers of the imperial palace, he ordered his servants to bring him a single wooden camp bed, the kind a soldier sleeps on. He reportedly said that gold and purple make a fine burial shroud, but no living ruler needs them. He worked in the imperial gardens with his own hands, and he rose before dawn every morning. He ate the same rations as his soldiers, and he turned away every gold platter his servants tried to bring him. Suitors sent princesses from every corner of Europe, and he turned them all away. He reportedly said that a wife would be a distraction he could not afford, and so he never took one. He had no mistress. He had no children. His only companions were his soldiers, his generals, and his priests. He was tall, with red hair and a red beard cropped short, and people said he had the gaze of an eagle. For almost 50 years, this man did not stop going to war. His obsession was Bulgaria, the old enemy to the north. Bulgarian raiders had reached the outskirts of Constantinople itself, and they had sacked cities deep inside the Greek peninsula. A Bulgarian emperor named Samuel had built a small but terrifying state, and he had defeated the Byzantines in open battle more than once. In the year Basil took power, Samuel's cavalry rode south and sacked the great city of Larissa. They drove almost as far south as Corinth, and the empire bled for it. In 986, Basil decided to settle the matter in a single campaign. He marched north with the largest army the empire had fielded in a generation, straight into the mountain passes. At a place called the Gates of Trajan, a narrow gorge between 2 mountain walls, the trap was sprung. A Bulgarian ambush fell from the cliffs above, raining down rocks and javelins on the trap column. The commander of Basil's own scouts had been bribed, and he had led the army straight into the kill zone. The Byzantine line broke within minutes, and a rout followed. Basil himself barely escaped, and his own imperial cloak was captured by Bulgarian soldiers on the field. He reached Constantinople alive, but most of the army did not, and 2/3 of the imperial force was lost on that field. Basil never spoke of the defeat in public, but he never forgot it. He swore a private oath that he would not wear his crown again until Bulgaria was broken. And for the next 18 years, he kept that oath. Year after year, summer after summer, Basil marched north. He refused to be lured into another open battle, and he built instead a strategy of methodical siege. Each year, he would take one Bulgarian fortress. Each winter, he would return to Constantinople and raise the taxes for the next campaign. He drained the imperial treasury. He sold off crown jewels, and he cut his own expenses to the bone. He signed an alliance with the Kievan Rus, the Bulgarians' old enemy to the east, and he cut off Bulgarian access to the Black Sea trade. He tightened the noose year by year, fortress by fortress. He sent agents into Bulgarian territory to bribe defectors and buy information. He used local informants to map every fortress, every road, every spring, and every garrison commander in Bulgaria. He took personal notes on every Bulgarian commander, and he knew their habits, their families, and their fears. By the year 1000, the Bulgarians were on the defensive in every province. By 1014, only a small slice of the old Bulgarian state still held out around its capital at Ohrid. Tsar Samuel himself was now an old man, and he had ruled for nearly 40 years. His health was failing, his eyesight was going, and he had outlived most of his own sons. But he would not surrender, and he gathered what he had left for one last stand. In the summer of 1014, Basil marched north for what he knew would be the final campaign. He brought with him his best general, Nicephorus Xiphias, and he sent a separate column under his cousin Constantine Diogenes to circle behind the Bulgarians. He placed his own tent at the village of Kleidion in the Belositsa Mountains, and he waited. On July 29th, 1014, Samuel attacked. He led his army straight at the Byzantine center, where Basil was supposed to be. But Basil was not there, because he had been replaced by a decoy command. Xiphias held the pass, the decoy held the line, and Samuel poured his army into the trap. And then Constantine Diogenes hit the Bulgarian flank from behind, and it was a perfect ambush. The Bulgarian line collapsed in minutes. Samuel himself was wounded in the rout, and he barely escaped the field. His sons were captured, his banners were taken, and his army was destroyed. 15,000 Bulgarian soldiers surrendered on the field. Basil had won, but he was not finished. He convened his war council outside the captured Bulgarian camp and asked his generals what should be done with the prisoners. Some advised mercy, and some advised execution. Basil listened in silence for a long time, and then he gave the order. The prisoners would be blinded. Not all of them, because one man in every 100 would keep a single eye, so that he could lead the others home. The work began at dawn, and it took the rest of the day. When the work was done, the blinded men were lined up in companies of 100, with a single one-eyed guide at the front of each company. And they were sent north into Bulgaria. They walked for days, each man holding the shoulder of the man in front, and some of them died on the road. Survivors reached the Bulgarian court at Prespa, where the wounded Samuel was resting. 2 by 2, the blinded soldiers filed past the old Tsar. Samuel watched them come, and he did not speak. 2 days later, on October 6th, 1014, Tsar Samuel suffered a stroke. He died before nightfall. Some historians say it was the shock, some say it was the grief, and some say his heart simply gave out. Whatever the cause, Tsar Samuel was dead, and the Bulgarian Empire died with him. Within 4 years, every Bulgarian fortress had fallen, and the next Bulgarian Tsar surrendered to Basil personally. Within 10 years, Bulgaria had been absorbed into the Byzantine Empire for the first time in 4 centuries. Basil was now the master of the entire Balkan Peninsula, and he was 56 years old. But he did not stop, and he turned east against the Arab Emirates and south against the Fatimid Caliphate. He added half of Georgia to the empire, and he took the ancient city of Ani. He added southern Italy back into imperial control, and his tax collectors followed his soldiers. By the time he died, in December of 1025, his empire stretched from the Balkans to Syria and from southern Italy to the Caucasus. It was the largest the Roman world had been in 400 years. He had ruled for 49 years, and he had spent almost every summer of his reign on campaign. He died without an heir because he had never married and never taken a consort, and the throne passed to his brother Constantine. Constantine was a man of very different temperament, and he loved the comforts his brother had spurned. Within a generation, the empire Basil had built would begin to crumble. But Basil himself was remembered, and he was remembered as the Bulgar Slayer. He was remembered as the emperor who slept on a camp bed in his own palace. He was remembered as the ruler who spent almost 50 years at war, and who never lost a battle he did not have to fight. He was remembered for the blinding at Kleidion, and for the brutal patience that had come before it. He was the last of the great Roman emperors, and he left nothing to chance. Basil II died in December of 1025 at the age of about 67. He had outlived 3 generations of enemies, and he had outlasted every rival who had tried to match him. For almost half a century, the Eastern Roman Empire had known exactly who it was following, and his name is still spoken in the Balkans in the same breath as fear. Imagine that, from the morning, every single day for 49 years. That was the life of Basil II, and that is the world he left behind. And that is the story of the Bulgar Slayer. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.